Rocking the Dad Pod, the first episode of Rocking the Dad Pod. I'm your Justin Soderberg. My co-host, a good friend over there, is Brian Keezer. How's it going, Brian?
What's up? Pleasure to be here.
Isn't this great?
Back again together.
You know, I got some not unrest coffee because I haven't been able to buy any from you in a while.
Wow. That's cool. I'm just drinking some seltzer.
You did come over to Orono Brewing Company and not bring any coffee with you, so I will blame you for that.
That's true. That is true. I was up in Orono just the other day, actually, but I didn't know if you were there. And
I'm working like during this pandemic right now, the second wave, if you think about it, or whatever, the third wave, whatever we're in now. I am now home Monday through Wednesday, basically working from home. I go in Thursday, Friday. Because those are the days we're open for delivery and pickup. So I'm home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The occasional time I'll go in on a Wednesday, but it's been crazy. It's been crazy. I'll tell you that much.
I hear you. But we are rocking the Dad Pod today.
We are rocking the Dad Pod, and I think Brian and I have talked for almost a year now about doing something, and we tried a little bit to do it on my podcast, but it became a little bit too much because of how often I wanted Brian on. And then I kind of morphed my podcast to something a little bit different. And then as I was, just thinking a little while ago, I was like, dude, we should do a dad podcast. I'm becoming a dad. In a sense, I already am a dad. I have a little baby, and he's the size of a grapefruit, I guess now.
Little bun in the oven.
And so we was like, but this is more poignant. This is more like we're going to talk about our experiences and stuff like that. So I thought, let's do a podcast, and then trying to come up with a cool name for it. And I thought this came to me, and I just thought, Rocking the Dad Pod instead of Dad Bod. Brian and I both have some pretty spectacular dad bods.
I have the on point dad bod right now.
But we're also going to have the on point dad pod now.
Yes. So. There you go.
I'd
rather push the podcast than my bod. So
my lovely wife Taylor was the one that did our artwork, the drawing of Brian and I for our podcast logo. So if you check that out,
it's hilarious, by the way. I showed my kids and I was like, "Who is this?" And they're like, "That's you." Like, it is spot on.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I think we're going to talk on this podcast episode, just really get to know Brian and I, and what we're planning to do for this podcast, so you can have an idea of when to listen to it, where to listen to it, and so on. I'm Justin Soderberg. I am 34 years old now. I'm going to be 35 in May. But the idea that I have lived in Maine for 25 years of that. I was born in Maine. Grew up in southern Maine until I was 10, moved to Bangor. My dad's a pastor, so he moved us up here to become a pastor. Went to school at Bangor Theological Seminary. And then I moved away in 2006 to get out of the state of Maine because I didn't think there was anything for me here. Lived in Massachusetts for 10 years. And I was doing marketing and design work for a church for most of that time, but also writing sports and covering sports, Bruins, UFC, college hockey, college baseball, minor league baseball, and so on. And then I moved back in 2016 to Bangor area and got a job at Orono Brewing Company, where I've now been for a number of years. And I like to talk. And so I got married in 2020 to my wife, Taylor, and we're now expecting our first child, a boy, this summer in June. So, so
what's the due date?
What's the due date? Which is so funny. I was mentioning off this recording to Brian that I'm reading a book called Watch Your Junk. And it's like Expected Father's book. And this guy talks about how they give you this due date and it's the date. It's the only date you ever care about. But the chances of you actually having the child on that due date are so slim. But people fixate on the date. When's the due date? So I've just been saying the first week of June. That's what I'm just saying. Because I'm like, there's no way that, if it happens to be the 6th, awesome. But if not, then I'm not really worried about it.
You're going to permanently be thinking, wow, when's his birthday? Is it the 6th or was that his due date? Or was that the day he was born? Yeah.
Well, hopefully it's the same. But here's the deal. It could be really easy. Taylor and I first started dating on June 2nd. So it could be really easy for me if the baby was born on June 2nd, because then the date just
Yeah.
is always there. Abe's birthday, my boss, is June 1st. So he's gunning for June 1st, but I'm like, I don't want him to share a birthday with Abe. So
Everyone
yeah.
thinks it's cool to share a birthday with somebody until it happens, and then you take the back seat, especially with a newborn.
Well, I mean,
Your birthday would
the
be
baby would
forever
have to
forgotten.
be 3 weeks early for it to share a birthday with me. So there's still
Yeah.
that opportunity, or chance. But I think I'm pretty safe that someone told me,
Yeah.
oh, he's gonna be born on Memorial Day. I'm like, oh, why'd you say
They'd always have their day off from school,
that? Exactly.
right?
But I like the idea. So we're pretty pumped. We're excited, and I'm excited to be a dad. I've learned a lot from my dad, but also I have a good number of friends that are also fathers, and I'm looking forward to that experience of raising a child. And hopefully, this podcast will help others see from our experience and just like not learn from our experience, but also give me an opportunity to learn from you and from other people as well, so that I can be the best person I can be to my kid too. So, but yeah, so I'm 34 years old, married, live in the Maine, Bangor area. Brian and I had known each other for a number of years, but really reconnected about 4 years ago now, when I first moved back here. So, yeah,
Yeah. Well done.
I think
Is it my
so.
turn?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. My name is Brian Keezer. I am the co-host of this awesome podcast. Very excited about. I am 36 years old, soon to be 37 in under a month, which just blows my mind when I think about. But 36 years old for now, holding strong, and married. Got 3 kids. We live in Maine as well. Lived in Maine my whole life. Um, I went to college in Canada, but I've lived in Maine my whole life. So have 3 kids, as I said. Jude is 11. He's my oldest. And Lucy is our middle child. She is a middle child to the T, and I'm sure we'll get into that kind of stuff at some point. But she is 8 years old. She'll be 9 in a little over a month. And Lennon is 4 years old, and she's our youngest. So Jude, Lucy, Lennon. No, we're not obsessed with the Beatles, but we just really like Beatles themed names. They just they go well. So
So if you have another child, is it gonna be named Dung, or is that Dung Beetle?
Yes.
No.
Oh, there you go.
Dad jokes. Here we go.
You got me on that one. I was like, I have no clue what he's talking about. I was thinking Yoko if we had another one.
Oh, there you go.
But no, we're not. We are set at 3. 3 kids is more than enough to handle. I applaud people who go for 4, but that's a lot. So, but I have loved being a dad. It is one of the most rewarding and most challenging experiences of one's life. So I think for me, I'm excited to just be able to share kind of my experiences, what I've gone through, the ups and the downs. Being a dad is fun, but it's hard, and I think it's something that dads don't talk about enough. I think dads are men, obviously, and men don't share their feelings very often. And so it's definitely something I think is long overdue to be talked about, and shared experiences of what's worked for me, and I'm excited to learn from other dads. I know we've been gathering together a list of future guests, and just seeing all the names that we have picked out and the different topics that we're hoping to hit. I'm excited. Jude's been alive for 11 years, and so I feel like I have a little bit of experience, but looking at all these topics, I've got a lot to learn. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, I work from home. I work for Northern Light Health as a clinical analyst. So I do computer work to support the electronic medical record. That's about as deep as I'll go into that. Everyone's like, what do you do for work? I'm like, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yes,
so I do
exactly.
that. My mom's always like, I just still don't know what you do. You've been there for like 15 years. I don't know what you do yet. So I like to keep it a mystery. It's job security that way.
He really
But
works
I
for the
also,
CIA.
yeah, right. Actually, Burt Macklin, FBI. I'm also a coffee roaster. I own Unrest Coffee Company, and been doing that for, this is our second year owning that, and so I think it's our second year, and that's been going well. That's fun. That's kind of my dream job in a way. Um, yeah, that's the short and skinny of it so far.
Yeah, exactly. And I should say I'm a general manager of Orno Brewing Company too. So that's my
Yes,
thing. And I'm working from home 3 days a week, going in the office 2 days a week, like I said. But
he's an
yeah,
at-home beer taster.
exactly. Well, I posted a picture this morning because it's technically, when we're recording this, most of our podcasts won't be quote unquote dated, but I feel like it's hard to not do that when you're doing an intro podcast because this is the brand new thing.
Yeah.
But today, the day we're recording this, is my 4th anniversary at Orno Brewing Company.
Look at
And
that.
so it's just weird because my 25% of that basically has been during a pandemic. So it's like to think about the length I've been at Orno Brewing Company and the
Yeah.
fact that the past 12 months ish has been during a pandemic. And when I posted my 3rd anniversary post, I was like, did not expect that this is what my 4th anniversary would be posted. And I
Right.
took a picture of me at my desk at home being like, this is not where I expected to be in
Yeah.
2021. I expected to be at work today, in the
Yeah.
office doing things. So,
We're creeping
but
up
yeah,
on that 1 year of the pandemic, where things just kind of went crazy. So it's kind of funny to, if you're on the Facebook there, to look back through your memories and stuff. And every day I'm like, oh man, that seems like forever ago. Like me and Jude went to Maine Red Claws game like last weekend, last year.
yeah.
And I was just like, man, those were the days.
Well, I think about that too. When you see someone post something and they're like in a big crowd of people, I'm like, what are they doing? They shouldn't be. Oh, it's last year. But like
Yeah.
people soon or in March and April are gonna post things from a year ago, and it's them sitting on their couch watching TV because that's we're
Yeah.
doing that.
Right.
So
I feel like this whole next year is just going to be a black hole for
yeah,
everybody. Like,
exactly.
forget, it'd be like the year that no one speaks of. Don't talk about it.
But yeah, so the funny thing is too is like the other experiences that I think that I'll be able to share with people that people will never, other people in my same situation will be able to, but things that you don't understand in a sense. My dad, our dads, people out there won't understand is having and getting pregnant during a pandemic too. So that's
Yeah.
like a thing experience that I'll be able to have for the rest of my life that not a lot of people will ever experience, other than people I know 3 or 4 people that are also having a baby
Yeah.
this summer. But the idea that going to doctor's appointments during a pandemic and
Oh, yeah.
the stress of us getting sick as a family in general, but also the fact that now my wife's pregnant, so I really don't want her to get sick. So it's like all that kind of cool experiences that I'll be able to share to future dads and to my kids in the later on in my life. But it's just crazy. Um,
Yeah.
we always will be, branded a COVID baby because of the fact that we had nothing better to do during COVID than to have a baby. But so, and
Yeah.
it's just like, so what, Brian mentioned about the experience too. And one of the things we talked about as we planned this podcast is that we don't want this to be a how-to
Mm,
podcast, boring. This
no
is
one
how you
likes
be a
those.
father. But really, what learning from what our experiences are, and us giving just what we learned from it ourselves, or what we
Mm,
should have learned or want to learn from it, and then then giving that experience to you. And then if you take it as a, oh, that's how I should be a dad, then cool. If you just
yeah.
take it as a that's pretty funny moment in their lives, then take it as that. But I think it's more just we're going to share our experiences. We're going to have guests on,
Yeah.
share their experiences, and then we'll just go forward with that. I don't think there's not going to be a like, this is how you be a dad, because I just think that's, no one wants to listen to that. You can buy how to books, and you can
Right.
buy them in audio format if you want to listen to them.
And it's
um
so subjective because, like, you think about it, there's so many different avenues or pathways to becoming a dad. Like, some people plan to, like, hey, we're going to start trying to have a family and we're going to, begin that process. Some people get thrust into it and they're like, guess what? Your girlfriend, your wife, whoever is pregnant and you're going to be a dad. So it's like you have so many different avenues there of how did you become a dad? Like, obviously everyone knows the specifics on how you become a dad, but like, how do you actually become a dad, and like, when did that happen, and how did you choose or not choose for that to happen? Um, and so like with experience, like I remember I was kind of sharing with you, for me, like when we planned to have Jude and we were all excited about it, and like, best decision ever. We waited a few years, so we were like, we wanted to kind of sow our wild oats, before we had a kid, and we were ready, and so we um, were all prepared for it. But then once it actually happened, I was just like, a couple months in, I was like, this is way different than I thought it was going to be, but yet exactly what I thought it was going to be. And I think, being a parent, it just totally, um, it just reveals more of your character, I think, of anything. That's something I've been thinking about as we've been talking about getting this podcast going and stuff that we're going to share. And I think, like, being a new dad, if you're kind of a selfish person in a way, which I definitely have found out that I am in a lot of ways, that you're going to be an even more selfish person. And so you're not going to all of a sudden become unselfish. And so that's something you got to look at. And I know, after Jude was born, or before that, like, I was in a band and we played all the time and shows, and we traveled a little bit out of state, and like, we didn't tour or anything when I was in the band, but we played a lot, and I loved every second of it. And then Jude was born, and then I'm suddenly like pulled in all these different directions and feeling like, this is what I want to do, and this is also what I want to do, and this is the dad that I want to be, but this is the dad that I want to be, and I want this in life, but it's hard to be able to balance all those things. And so, we'll get into more of that as we talk about, there's some other guests that I know we're gonna bring on the show, that they are kind of living out their passions, and how do they balance that with being a father. So um, it's going to be a trip. I think it's going to be fun.
And to tease the next episode, my dad, just so we know, we do have the next episode not scheduled but pretty much locked in. My dad will be on. He's a pastor in Connecticut, and became a pastor up here. And over the past couple of years, he got his doctorate, so he's now what he calls him Reverend Dr Dad, is what he likes to call himself. But he also, like, he has some great stories about being a father, playing in bands, like at bars, and great experiences to explain. And I'll let him explain them and talk to him. But like, what it like the switch from being a rock star, to being a dad, and like, it was like that to him. It was one night he
Yeah.
realized that he was done with being in the
Right.
band. And so there's that aspect. So I love to bring that up because that's experiences that in a sense you have. I stopped playing in bands long before I decided to have a child. And the idea that you mentioned about waiting and sowing your oats and trying to figure out having a child. I think the reason why Taylor and I not sped this up, because we got married in August of 2020, and we, announced that we were pregnant around November, around Thanksgiving.
You just wanted to do all your big events during COVID, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to be able to have those stories. No, but we thought the first, like, we were engaged, and yes, depending on your beliefs and things like that, we lived together, but like, so depending on what you have beliefs and whether or not it's right or not. But like, I think the best thing that happened to us as a relationship for a couple was that from like end of February, beginning of March, all the way up until now, we've spent so much more time together than we would have in a
Mm.
normal world without COVID, because the only person that I was really allowed to like physically, like, in person interact with was my wife. And so I feel like our relationship fast forwarded like 4 years just during
Mm.
COVID, and the aspect of we could live with each other during this pandemic and not kill each other,
Yeah.
or not call off the wedding. We knew that this is a long-term thing for us, and so we're like, might as well, get out of the way. And I'm also 34. Not that that's old, but I also don't want to be 75 years old at my kid's graduation, if that makes any sense too. So,
Oh yeah.
you know, the idea of getting older in life is just, I want to be able to do the fun things with my child as a somewhat young person, and not
Right.
being like, oh, let's play basketball. I can't, my hip. And so those are the kind of
Yeah.
things. But I think those are the kind of experiences that I'm not going to play like I know anything. Because first of all, Brian doesn't know anything either. Even being
No.
a father of 3 kids, he does not
Ask
have
my
all the
kids. I don't know
answers.
anything.
But like, neither one of us are gonna have all the answers. But like Brian mentioned, though, he has
Yeah.
experience of 11 years of being a father, and in 4 years of being a father of 3. And
Mm.
so the idea that he'll have more answers than I will, for sure. And hopefully I learned a lot from him with this too. So this is a pretty cool experience for us. So we're gonna do these monthly, to start off
Yeah.
with. If you guys like it enough, we might do twice a month, but we'll figure it out when we have a chance.
Oh yes.
And I think we'll do other ones like we talked about off air, which is basically like small little snippet TED Talk length max podcasts that are just like something crazy happened or some fun story to tell, or literally Brian or I could get on there and be like, this happened. It's just 10 minutes of telling a story, and that's the podcast. Small one. We're going to work on that in the future. We're going to start with this monthly thing,
Yep.
get guests. Some of the subjects are pretty cool. Like I said, next podcast, we're going to talk to my dad, who's a pastor. So I thought the best thing, and Brian's a pastor as well, to talk about what faith has in connection to raising a child. Some little things, just a little thing is like my dad basically told me that I could make the decision of whether or not I went to church or not. Some families it's more forced, and so it's nice to know that to have that discussion with the pastor, as well as being my dad, so he'll be able to tell some stories of me being a rotten child. But other ones like like things I've talked about or thought about when I've been um, now thrust into the idea that I'm going to be a father and looking towards the future and things that I want to do and things that I'm
Yeah.
buying and books and is like hobbies, like my hobbies. What hobbies do I instill into my kid, or what hobbies do I have to be like, okay, they're probably not going to like that. The benefit I got is that I'm having a boy, so at least some of the stuff
Right.
is going to go easy. Things like work-life balance, Brian has that right now too. So Brian will be able to deal with that with owning your own coffee roasting company and having that at home. The idea of working from home, especially during the
Yeah.
summer, is probably trying because your kids are like, "But you're home, Dad. Let's do stuff."
Oh yeah.
So
Just sit like where my office is. I like some big windows right up
yeah,
in front of me. I'm in the basement, but I can see out, and like we have a pool in the backyard. And all summer long, it was just like sitting here working, watching my kids swim, and thinking, man, why am I not swimming right now? That's not even being a dad thing. That's like it's 90 degrees outside. I'm sitting in the basement. I want to be floating around the pool.
but
But
those
yeah,
options of having your what to do, like having the work-life balance of a busy father with a career and also trying to raise your kids the correct way.
yeah.
I'm not going to name any guests yet because we haven't really nailed them all down yet, but it'll just have these ideas of these things that we would like to talk about.
But if we say their name, they're kind of like forced to
Forced
join
into
us,
it.
right?
They said it on the podcast.
Tom
um,
Brady will be on next
on the
week.
podcast.
Work-life
Greatest.
balance.
Okay, let's just time out there. I know Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, and if anybody does not believe that he is the greatest quarterback or NFL athlete of all time, you're crazy at this point. Like I can't have a conversation with you if you don't think that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback.
Since we're
to ever play
going
the
down
game.
this pathway,
Yes.
I have hated Tom Brady for joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the second I heard about it. I was mad, and I still am angry about it. I still think he should have retired as a Patriot. I get it. He just proved me wrong. He's 60 years old and he just won the Super Bowl, but I'm still angry he's not a Patriot. But I get it. But this is the thing that I've been like, my Instagram feed this morning is just Tom Brady everywhere. Like that's all it is. And my question is, I saw who said, I think it was Tony Romo was like, if Tom Brady wins this Super Bowl, it'll shut the door on being the greatest of all time. But if he doesn't, it'll leave the door open. And I was just thinking to myself, first off, who would it have left the door open to? Like even before this one, he was still the great. Like I don't see how you could contest that he wasn't the greatest of all time, even before this one. Like this is just kind of like gluttonous at this
Mhm.
point. You know what I mean? Like, he is the greatest. He will be forever. Like, you look at Super Bowl wins, and it's not like Tom Brady versus other quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It's versus organizations.
Yes.
Like he is more than any other organization, period, by multiple. So
I mean, I think part of it is the idea of getting it. It's like, oh, was it Belichick winning those Super Bowls in a sense? I think
yeah,
part of that is the idea that now he went to a different team and was
yeah.
basically just started from a team that wasn't good and made the
Oh
team
yeah.
win the Super Bowl in their first year they were there. And they didn't look good at the beginning of the season. What did they start like super bad to start the season? Not super bad, but
Right.
not good. And so I think that's part of it. But I understand where you're coming at. He was, I mean, if you look at all the, like, I think 98.5 The Sports Hub posted a article this morning that I read that said, like, these are all the records that he broke. And it's like all the
Yeah.
like 50% of those records that he broke were his own records that he broke.
Oh yeah.
Like, he was the most touchdown passes in the Super Bowl. He beat his own record by 2 touchdowns. It's
right.
like, so yes.
I was shocked that he had never thrown a touchdown in the first quarter of a Super Bowl.
And 10 times he's playing in the Super Bowl.
It's like, that just kind of blew me away. But anyways, yeah,
But the idea, though, I
agree.
think what I will say is I was mad too, because I was like, okay, I'm not Patriots are not or football's not my favorite sport to watch. Like, I do watch
Yeah.
it, but it's like, it's not my number one. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
as you know, basketball is my number one. But we watching it and knowing that it sounds like afterwards, the kind of thing after they won the Super Bowl, that a lot of people think that it's Belichick and Kraft who were at fault here. That, like, they could have had Tom Brady back, but they didn't try hard enough to keep him in New England. Like, to say,
Yeah.
hey, no, we're going to do everything we can to have you here. We're going to pay you. Da, da, da. And so he was like, if you're not going to try hard enough to keep me, I'm going to prove to you that you screwed
Yeah.
up here and go to another team and win the Super Bowl. And now Belichick and Kraft look horrible because the
Right.
Patriots sucked this year. And
I think there's a level of Tom Brady, though, that said, and this
Yeah.
is the part of me that's like, accepts it, is the
Yeah.
fact that, you know, I think, unlike Michael Jordan, I think Michael Jordan just, like, there's a part of me that doesn't think that he cared that he was the greatest of all time. But I think Tom Brady's like, I'm going to be the greatest of all time, and I'm going to prove it. And I think him going, I don't think there was any chance he was staying in Foxborough. I think he said, this will solidify it, like, that I am not a system quarterback. I am the system, and I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. You know, I don't think him and Bill Belichick could be the best of friends, and I still think he would have gone. You know, it's
and I think he learned from
capstone.
LeBron James with the whole idea. He went to Miami and won the championships, and then went back to Cleveland and won a championship. So it's like proving to people. Then he went to Los Angeles, won the championship. Like, I think he's proven to people that it's him that's making these teams good. And the same thing with Tom Brady. Tom Brady could, I mean, think about the back of the past Patriots. We had not the greatest receivers ever, and he was able to get the ball to them. So it's like, and he was horrible draft pick and horrible. Like, it's just a great story. So I will say, I'm a fan of the Patriots, and that's how we are. And the same thing we talk about. Brian and I are both fans of the Celtics, and that we'll be more fans of the players that are currently on the Celtics than any players that are not. So, you know, we might be fans of someone like Isaiah Thomas or Rajon Rondo because they played for the Celtics, but I'm not rooting for the Hawks because Rondo plays for the Hawks, if that makes any sense.
Once you leave the Celtics, you're dead to me.
It's like when Paul Pierce went to the Nets and Garnett went to the Nets. I'm not cheering for the Nets. So there is that. And the same thing is there's a couple players on the Celtics that I'd be afraid or sad if they traded. But in the same sense, if they trade players out and the Celtics win the championship this year, I don't give a crap about the player not playing in the Celtics anymore.
Yeah.
I want the Celtics to win the championship, not the players on the Celtics to win the championship.
Right.
So the same thing. Tom Brady, all these people cheering for Tom Brady, great. He won the Patriots 6 Super Bowls. It's amazing. But you're not fans of the Buccaneers. So just, you know, no one cheered for Gronk. That's the thing. Gronk scored 2 touchdowns in that thing. No one's like, yeah, Gronk. They're all Brady. So
I saw someone say a year ago today, Gronkowski was retired doing whatever the heck he wanted. And today he's winning a Super Bowl, and you could look at him and say, hey, he could have been the MVP, the Super Bowl MVP, like 2 touchdowns. He's a blocker that, like, I never saw him in New England. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think he just played a well-rounded game all the way around. So you could argue he could have been the MVP, but to think he was, making WWE appearances, just like he slimmed way down, like he was like nothing, and then nope, I'm coming back and win Super Bowl.
Wasn't he like selling CBD drinks too?
That CBD and Tide Pods, I think.
Yes. But I mean, so yeah, we'll talk sports. I mean, that's one of the things. Brian and I both love the Celtics, so I think that'd be kind of cool to have someone on here and talk about. I think the difference also is watching sports with your kids, like getting them into the passion that you have. Like Jude loves basketball now because of it, but not forcing the idea that you're not a professional athlete. So you want your kid to be a professional athlete. There's a balance between that, which one of them is you want your kid to be the best at what they do. So if the best of what you do is a professional athlete or Olympian, then obviously you want that for them, but you don't want to force them into it like somewhat Russia does to their gymnastics people and stuff like that. You don't want to have like this weird thing in there. Same thing with some of the activities you might like, small things that you do that, oh, this is my favorite thing in the world. Your kid be like, I hate that. And you have to just live with it. You can't force that onto your kid.
Right. And being interested in stuff that I sometimes want to jab a pencil into my face while listening to talk about Minecraft or Roblox and stuff. But it's like, hey, that's what he's into right now. I'm going to listen and I'm going to pretend like, oh, that's so cool, man. Like, it's interesting, the stuff that you want to share your passions, but you also have to know that it's a two-way street. You got to share in their passions and stuff. But
I also think, like I said, these are just some ideas I want to spitball out there for people. If they have any ideas and listening to this, message us on Instagram, Facebook. I believe we have an email address up on the website right now, or if not, we will. I think Justin at rockingthedadpod.com I think I did it because I needed it to sign up for Instagram and all that stuff. But I will create a generic one for the future, and I'll create one for Brian if you want to just message Brian directly.
There you go.
But this is some ideas. So if you have any other ideas of things that you would like to listen to or hear about as a dad or as a mom or as anybody just listening to it, or maybe when your wife or spouse or other half are thinking about having a child and you want to hear some stuff, message us and we'll figure that out. My best friend is a dad, an actual dad, but he also is a dad to like 50 people that he has a father figure to. So that aspect of he wants to jump on here too. He actually mentioned to me he picked up some trash for me yesterday or Saturday, an old mattress and some old furniture that he brought to the dump.
First, I thought you talking about that movie with he's a dad to 50 people.
Yes,
the movie with what's his name?
Vince Vaughn. Is it Vince
Vaughn?
Vaughn?
Yeah,
Delivery Man. Delivery Man. And he delivered trash to the dump for me. So he's a delivery man as it is.
Hey, there you go.
No, but he was my best man at my wedding, and he's my best friend, but he also is like a father to me. That my parents live in Connecticut. My in-laws live in Lewiston in Portland area. So like I don't have that exact direct quick, I need to talk to my dad in person here. So Michael's that person. So I think that's cool too. He's an actual father of a child, but also is that father of myself and all of our friends and stuff like that. So being a dad is a real thing, but also being a father figure. You can be a father figure even if you didn't have kids, but he happens to have a kid, but that aspect of it. Politics. Awesome. I don't want to do a bunch of like actual political views on things, but the idea of what to do if your kid is the opposite side of the aisle that you're on, or those kind of things. So talking to someone in politics who's a father would be kind of cool. Homeschooling. I have a friend who homeschools their kids. Having a baby during a pandemic. I have a friend who actually had a baby, like not is pregnant during the pandemic, but physically had a child during the pandemic. I have a friend who married his second wife, who also has a teenage son who's the same exact age as his son. So it's like basically going from a single kid to having twins overnight in a sense. So that's kind of cool topic to have a conversation about. And then talking to someone like myself, who's in the beer industry, who's a father of kids. And the idea that beer is a kind of a taboo subject, or alcohol in general, for parents to have to talk about, and having someone who physically earns money off of the industry, kind of cool to have that topic. So, and we mentioned hunting, fishing, outdoor activities, those kind of things too. So there's a bunch of things we want to cover on this. And I think with the list we have, if everybody says yes, we have guests for the next year and a half if we do it only monthly.
We might need to go more than monthly. Who knows?
And we talked about it. There's a possibility that some of these might end up having to be for like us two and two people. But the goal is only to do one extra guest because I think then you end up with a 4-hour podcast because everybody talks for half an hour and then you got a 4-hour podcast in no time. So, but yeah, I'm excited, man. This will be fun.
It's going to be fun.
I think everybody out there, you'll enjoy listening to us talk. Please, share this with friends. Like let's get this out there because people don't know about it. It's hard to start a podcast or start something new and have it go. So it takes a lot of you people out there to share it to other people.
That's right.
But is there anything you
want
to
and share, subscribe?
It's the thing is, I hate doing that. And
I know
it's the stupidest thing to say. Hey, follow us there. But it's true. I mean, if you're listening to this in your car,
hit this link here.
You're not clicking a link here. So we have to explain to people, like, find us, rockingthedadpod.com. All of our links are on there. Once this episode airs, you'll be able to find us on Spotify and Apple and all those places. So
exactly. And Mom, I'll show you how to follow along once this gets posted.
See, don't worry, there you go. So I think we covered everything that we want to talk about. I mean, obviously this is gonna be a growing podcast, so there's some things we'll add and subtract and figure out. But starting off monthly will be nice, and it will give you the opportunity to listen to over the weekend because it'll be released on a Friday. You can start it on the way to work, on the way home from work, and then finish it over the weekend, or listen to it whenever, because you're not going to get behind with it being monthly as long as you listen to it every month. Like some of these podcasts that are 3 times a week, I can't just keep up. I have to listen to that one podcast over and over and over again. And not listen to anything else to get it. So once a month, I think is doable for you people because it's going to be doable for us. Right, hopefully. Brian?
Yes. Committed.
Let's do this.
We'll be here.
We'll have fun. So I'm not due. My wife is due in June. I want to make sure that's clear. We are having a baby. She's the one that's going to do all the work. I've already done all the work that I need to do to make this baby. And she's going to be doing all the work.
I know people are wondering, we will be live during the delivery of that child. So just kidding.
We will be. It'll be Brian at home while I'm at the hospital.
I'll just be sending Justin text messages.
I'm getting texts. Okay, yep, they're in the delivery. Well, it's just funny because some of the things we talked about, and it's obviously we'll have to talk about as I go further, but because this is once a month, it's a lot easier to do. But then I'm like, well, maybe we'll record an extra one ahead of time in May so that in June we don't have to do one. But then I'm like, but this is a podcast about being a dad. Shouldn't we have one like almost immediately after I have the child so we can talk about the experience of having a baby? Like
exactly.
So we're all going to make it happen. Plus, I'm going to have we have a time to take an hour and do this because my mother-in-law will be here at some point. My mom will be here at some point.
They can do that first month's piece of cake. It's after that.
It's all downhill. Brian's gonna have so much fun watching me experience the first couple of months of having a child because he's just gonna sit back.
Hey Justin, how many hours of sleep did you get last night? I got 8 and it was lovely.
I jokingly said I'm gonna start practicing that. I'm just gonna start staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning and waking up at 5 just so I'm used to it.
Right. Even then, actually last night, Len and my youngest came down at I don't even know what hour it was. It was probably midnight or something, and she climbed in bed, slept in our bed, and it was horrible. It's one of those things as a parent, like when you first think, oh, it'd be kind of nice to snuggle for a night, and then this is no. If you're a what do they call parents that co-sleeper parent? Like I'm not gonna shame you, but I don't know how you do that. Maybe we'll have to have a co-sleeper on here and be like, do you have 3 king size beds that you sleep? Because I could do that. It's brutal.
You seen those jokes of beds that are the entire room? That's what they have.
Co-sleeping. We talked about that. We were like, let's get 2 king beds and put them in our room. Just have a big bed.
Well, you pick a small little double bed next to your bed that has wheels on it. So the second you start, co-sleep, and then you slowly push the bed out. Right. So they wake up in the middle. They're in their own bed, but they're just in your bedroom. They're just off to the side.
Just slowly push them out of the door.
But,
get out.
And you're like, oh crap, that was down the stairs. Oops. So rockingthedadpod.com. And I believe I made it on Instagram and Facebook. I'm not going to create a Twitter just so everybody knows out there. I have a Twitter for random stuff. Usually it's to complain about the United States Postal Service and their crappy shipping at this point. and complain about being an eBay seller because I sell things on eBay and they side with the buyer way too much on eBay. Not going to go into a rant on that right now, but you can follow my Twitter if you want to do that. But we're at Rocking the Dad Pod on both Instagram and Facebook. You can find us on there. Follow us, please. That's how you'll learn about new episodes or new things. Plus, we're going to post just some social media stuff of us living as dads and the experience behind that. And then you'll be able to find this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for sure. And I'm probably going to disperse it onto all the other ones. But really, the places you listen to most podcasts are on Apple and Spotify. If you listen to us on Apple, you can write a review, and that actually helps us go up in the family and father, or it's like, I think it's a family. It's like a family and parenting category.
Ooh.
If you more reviews and more ratings, we'll end up jumping up on the search on there. So it helps us get people to listen to the podcast. So do that. Yeah. And you can follow Brian at the Keys on Instagram.
Yep.
And
if you're lucky, I'll allow you to follow me.
Yes, at the Great Justin.
I will.
If you are a dad, you have to be a dad to follow Brian, though. Sorry, it's all dad stuff. It's really cheesy and corny.
Sorry, ladies.
It's really disgusting, honestly. Yeah, cool. I think people got the gist of things, right? What do you think?
I think so. I think we let people get to know the dads. Episode 1 finished.
Anything
nailed it.
Fun that you want to tell someone about yourself that no one else knows? Not no one else knows, but just a fun.
Yikes.
Look at that, huh?
I don't know. I like true crime podcasts, true crime documentaries. I'm a JFK.
I know you. I want to do that. Actually, we got to find someone to have that conversation about, because I think we may just have you on my podcast to talk about JFK conspiracies.
I could talk JFK. I've actually, up until the whole pandemic, man, you're going to get me going here. Up until the pandemic, I would have called myself a conspiracy theorist. I like to dabble in all things conspiracies, but I don't know, these coronavirus conspiracies and this past election, all the conspiracies going on, they fried me. I just can't.
No,
I just can't.
Funny, did you hear about the one that the halftime show with The Weeknd at the Super Bowl was Illuminati? Literally, there's a new thing going on the internet right now. There's
everyone's in the Illuminati.
The Illuminati weekend. It was an Illuminati halftime show at the Super Bowl that The Weeknd was spreading conspiracy. I can't even anymore. Some of these things are just crazy.
Lennon fell asleep during the second quarter, and so I brought her up to bed because I put her to bed every night. That's like my nightly duty, and that's our time. So I was putting her to bed, and then I came down. I thought it was a Slipknot concert with all those guys in red suits and those diapers on their faces, whatever they were wearing. I was like, I bet they had to wear a mask, and so they tried to make it look cool somehow, but yikes. And then
Taylor was like, I'm gonna throw up because of this. Like when they were in that gold room, there was like this room where she's like, I'm gonna throw up right now.
It was wild, but hey, it was, family appropriate. Yeah, it's something I didn't have to be like, guys, close your eyes. I don't know, you're not ready for
this yet. I wouldn't have cared if I saw The Weeknd's boob, so I don't like, that's not
right.
I love the person online was like, hey, I want to help you guys. It's The Weeknd, and he spelled it the way that he spells it. It's not The Weekend, and it's spelled like WEEKEND, because The Weeknd doesn't have a second or third E.
Yeah.
But like, they're like, I'm just going to help you people when you're typing about The Weeknd. The Weeknd's a cool thing. The Weeknd's awesome. We love The Weeknd. Don't hate The Weeknd. Hate The Weeknd.
Right. But I thought it was all good.
I watched the first half and a little bit of the third quarter, and I wanted to watch that because on Saturday night, one of my favorite bands, Silent Planet, they did a live stream, one of those live stream concert things I paid $10 for. And Taylor's not really into that style of music, so she was like, no, I'll watch it with you, it's fine. So we watched the stream. I had an amazing time watching it, and it worked out really well because this next night she's a huge The Weeknd fan, so like,
there you go.
The next night when I was like, the Super Bowl halftime show is gonna be The Weeknd, so we both be able to watch live performances on TV this weekend.
There you
go.
It
worked out really well in that aspect.
You're getting old. When I was like asking Jude and Lucy, I was like, do you guys know who this guy is? Like, I've never heard of this person ever. And then that last song he had, I was like, oh, this sounds vaguely familiar. But even I thought, what was her name? Her HER. I don't know what it stands for, but she did. Did she do the national anthem or?
I missed
Or
that.
she did America the Beautiful, I think, at the beginning. She did awesome. She like sang it and then had a guitar solo and stuff.
Mhm.
I thought all of it was good. I mean, it wasn't Fergie, so it was amazing.
And I love the people like, oh, the halftime show wasn't like the old ones. It's a pandemic, people. Like, I don't like.
It's probably the only dude that said he'd do it.
Yes. So I'm like, I'm confused with what you're thinking here, but
Yeah.
But yeah. So the conspiracy, back to the conspiracy thing. We were watching.
Right.
We're watching the X-Files. We're on season 9 now.
Oh gosh.
And so that just makes me think. And I went online like researching JFK conspiracies and all that stuff. So I love learning. So there's also a thing where I like just like watching documentaries on things and true crime things and all that stuff
Yeah.
too. But a
That's like
fun
all
fact
we
about me,
watch.
my favorite movie is National Treasure. So that's a
Yes.
little fun thing about Justin here. So
And he actually tells people that.
yes, it's Taylor. One of Taylor's favorite movies too. So it works out very well. We have a National Treasure poster in our hallway.
I think that's the Declaration of Independence.
No, that's not real. It's conspiracy.
It's the real one. You stole it.
I stole it. I even used
Anything.
the National Treasure lines in my vows, didn't I, Brian?
He did. I made
That's actually
that,
a fun fact for people. Brian married us, so
fun
that's pretty
fact.
cool.
I never mailed in the marriage certificate, so technically they're not married, but I did the ceremony.
Oh, we ended up having to fly during the pandemic to Las Vegas and actually get married.
Just kidding. I did.
I know we have the certificate now, so which is stupid in the state of Maine. Anybody's getting married, if you get married, they charge you for this marriage certificate to get married. Then they charge you again to get a copy of it for yourself.
Nickel and diamond, yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
That's the most stressful part of performing a wedding. It's not actually doing the ceremony. It's getting the signatures and mailing that sucker in, knowing that you don't want to be the cause 50 years down the road that a couple's not actually married.
Well, you could be the judge and be like, this marriage is not going to last. I'm not going to send it in.
I'm not going to let this one be on my record. I am not mailing this thing in.
So when it falls apart, be like, oh, we have to go to divorce. Oh, you're not actually married in the first place. So you're all set.
Saved you. I saw this coming a mile away. Don't worry.
But so at the Rocking the Dad Pod on Instagram, Facebook, rockingthedadpod.com. We look forward to doing this with all you guys. I'm excited to have a conversation with Brian again. Brian's, we always have fun talking.
We do.
And so, yeah, that's
awesome.
It. Sweet.
Peace out. See you guys next time.
Yep.
We got to think of a cool exit.
Yeah, this is it. I think one of those things we got to do is like, you got to do a saying. Like I used to listen to a podcast that says, enjoy your burrito, and they would end. We got to have some sort of cool saying. I don't know. We'll figure it out.